Good morning, everyone, and good morning to those of you who are streaming the Dharma talk. It's Labor Day weekend, and I hope you're able to have some recreation time, some rest. Labor Day is a pretty old holiday. It was established in 1894 as a national holiday. And some years before that, in New York and in Oregon, there were municipal ordinances or state ordinances maybe to have this day to recognize and honor the workers, and also to give them time to enjoy some recreation and rest with their families and friends. So it's something all of us have, or those of us who have grown up in the United States have had this holiday. And for me, it always meant school was going to happen the next day, Tuesday. Now the schools start, some start after Labor Day and some start in August. So this morning I wanted to continue with a discussion and offering that I began again. I've taught this and studied this particular teaching over the years, and I had a class this week with our work practice apprentice group who meet together weekly, and I brought it up again with them, and the teaching is about the teachings that have to do with upright speech. So my eyes water, just to let you know, I'll be daubing a bit. So upright and noble speech. The Buddha and many teachers, the Buddha spoke about speech, upright speech. In Sanskrit, that's samyak vak, and that word samyak or sama in Pali is not it's translated as right, the Eightfold Path, right view, right intention, right speech, right livelihood, and so on. That word right is not the right and wrong. It's not like right speech and wrong speech. The right of samyak is really more like upright, complete, all going in the same direction, sometimes translated as wholesome. So it's right in that sense rather than judging what's wrong. So upright speech is one of the 8 folds of the Eightfold Path. It's the third one, right view, right intention, right speech. And the Eightfold Path is divided for study purposes into 3 kind of gatherings that are wisdom, concentration, and ethical or morality, ethical teachings, morality. And right view and right intention are part of wisdom or prajna, and right speech, right livelihood, and right action all come under shila, or the moral ethical teachings. And then right mindfulness and concentration, which are the last 2, come under concentration. In terms of looking at the Eightfold Path and dividing it up in different ways. So the Buddha spoke about upright speech And there's lots of stories of people asking him about speech. But basically, you could say it's distilled into what we let go of in terms of our speech and what we look at when we speak. And what we look at, meaning, how come I'm saying something now? What is my motive? What is my intention? How come I want to say what I'm saying? What's it about? And we can fool ourselves quite a bit around that. So I wanted to go over those. There's 5 keys or things to look at when wanting to speak, and 4 things to let go of. And I've found these to be very kind of handy to reflect on when there's, should I say something or not? Or when it's difficult to say something, how can I come to a way of saying something that will meet the situation, that will be in accord with the conditions that I'm in right now? So there's no formula for when right speech always will be happening if you do these things. It's not that simple. It depends. It depends. And the Buddha, when asked about that, said, it depends. It depends on the situation. So the 4 things to let go of or abandon around our speech are abandoning false speech, abandoning divisive speech, abandoning or let go of abusive and harsh speech. And the 4th one, which sometimes people wonder, well, how did that one get on the list? But the 4th one is letting go of or abandoning frivolous talk and idle chatter. So I'll say something about all 4 of those. I did want to, I'm going to mention the 5 things to be aware of, and I want to go back a little bit to our precepts around speech. The 5 things to be aware of when speaking are, number 1, is it true? You can ask yourself these questions. Is it true what I'm about to say? Which goes along with abandoning false speech, or the precept of disciple of Buddha does not lie. So they're redundant, they come up in different places, and they're extremely important for our lives and the lives of everyone we come in contact with. So to consider when speaking, is it the truth? Is it the right time? Might be true, but is now the time to bring this up with this person or to say something? Will they be able to hear it? Are they calm enough? Are they, do they trust me enough? And time, that second one, which is, it says time, is the time right? It's time and place, really, because you don't really have time by itself. It's time and place at the same time, at the same moment. So it's not clock time, really. It's time and place. Is this the right time and place? The third one, and there's different ways these are listed, but I'll say the third one is it beneficial? So it may be true. It may be fine, right time and place, but is it beneficial for this person, for the situation, for the group, for the world? Is there any benefit? It may be true. However, is it beside the point to say it? So this question, is it beneficial? Will it be a beneficial action on my part? The fourth one is, does it come from an affectionate mind? Are you speaking from some place of loving kindness or affection, kindness? It may be true. It may be fine, time and place. It may be beneficial, but what's my motive? Why am I, is there any shadow there that I'm not looking at? Is it coming from affection? And the fifth is similar to that. Is it coming from a mind of goodwill? I feel like the mind of goodwill, beneficial action, loving kindness are all very close in some ways to each other, but you can also tease them apart. So those are something that those four abandonings, letting go of false speech, divisive speech, harsh and abusive speech, and frivolous talk and idle chatter. That's those four. And then, is it true? Is it the right time and place? Is it beneficial? Is it affectionate? True affection? And is it from the mind of goodwill? So these are practices. These are things to consider that we can turn and ask ourselves about. And in the service of living our life in accord with our vows of living for the benefit of beings and the great earth, and becoming a trustworthy person, that when you speak, people trust your words and listen, and also, you know, the power of speech is such that, as Dogen says in his guide to the Bodhisattva, guide for the Bodhisattva's way of life, one of those is kind speech. And in that writing, Dogen, for those of you who don't know, is an ancestor in this lineage, Japanese, wonderful teacher, and we study his teachings a lot. And in this particular teaching of kind speech, he talks about how when you hear kind speech, your whole body, you're delighted, and your countenance is brightened. And also, that's if you, not even if someone's talking with you kindly, we feel the effect of that very strongly and can feel the healing power of kindness. But even overhearing someone talking to someone else in a kind way, we can be affected strongly. Or even if we didn't hear it ourselves, but heard about it, a kind word, kindness being offered. So it has a lot of power. And at the end of that essay about kind speech, Dogen says kind speech can turn the destiny of the nation. So, you know, I began to study upright speech at a time when the public discourse I felt was so painful to hear. The kinds of words people were using, name calling, lying, alternative realities, and so forth, at a level I had never experienced before. And it's still going on. And I felt the power of that kind of speech as well. and wanting to study for myself and with others the about speech and the practice of speech, because it has such a strong effect on our life together, our life in community, our life on this planet. So just flowing from this discussion, I wanted to turn towards our precepts. And we have in this lineage 16 precepts, many of which you could say all of them, you can study them in the light of right speech, upright speech. But some of them in particular are talking about speech, especially in the group of the 10 grave precepts or major precepts. So just to name some of those, there's the precept, the wording that we're using now is a disciple of Buddha, and then it's often does not do a certain thing. So a disciple of Buddha, the speech precepts, disciple of Buddha does not lie. That's the fourth of the 10. A disciple of Buddha does not slander. Slander is speaking about another person in order to have people think less of them, ruin their reputation. Often the slander is lying also. So those two go together. You can maybe speak about someone's or have a critique of someone, speak about their shortcomings in a way that isn't slanderous. It comes from wanting to be of benefit, wanting to help a situation. But slander, the purpose of it is to have other people lower their opinions and for someone to lose their reputation. It's associated with libel, right? So disciple of Buddha does not slander. Disciple of Buddha does not praise self at the expense of others. So this is also praising ourselves. It's not that we don't speak about our strengths in terms of a job interview or wanting to do a particular job, what I can offer. We're not talking about that. We're talking about praising ourselves at the expense of others by often putting someone else down or for the purpose of showing that we're better than others. So praising ourselves, there is a place for that, to talk about our practice in both our strengths and our weaknesses or our areas of development. That's fine. But is there more to it? So there's a precept about that. Disciple of Buddha does not praise self at the expense of others. Those are very specific about speech, and also disciple of Buddha does not disparage the triple treasure, meaning Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. No disparagement, putting down, speaking disrespectfully about the teachings and those who are practicing. So those are very specific, but the other precepts of the list of 10 also could be about speech. For example, the disciple of Buddha does not kill. So we can figuratively kill with our harsh, abusive speech, with our criticism and put downs and sarcasm and so forth. It can kill the spirit. It can kind of slash someone's creative impulses, So there is a way that we can kill with speech. Also, a disciple of Buddha does not take what is not given. And in terms of speech, for me, I've noticed, and you probably have as well, that there are people in our lives who fill up the space with talking and their words, and sometimes there's no pause, it's just one story after the other, and then there's no give and take. It's like taking what is not given by sucking all the air out of the room. So that's another way to think about that precept. Disciple of Buddha does not take what is not given. How we might do that with our verbal habits and ways of interacting. So all of these precepts can be turned through this lens of upright speech, upright and complete and noble speech. I looked at my clock, my watch, when I first came in here, and it stopped. It's so I'm going to need to ask. I can't see for myself. It said 8:20. Oh, now it says 7:45. What time is it? It's about right. Okay, so it's working, but it's not telling the right time. Yeah. Ooh, okay. Well, I'm going to set this right now. Okay. So I feel like there's so many things I want to tell you, stories, and I'll do my best to share with you some things around this study that I want to share with you. I was recently speaking with someone who told me about, it was a very brief story. They were just telling me about their sister who got into this altercation in a parking lot with these other people, and it didn't turn into fisticuffs or anything, but it was unpleasant and yelling, and this person I spoke with felt they had to kind of get out of there. And as they were driving away, her sister kept saying, I didn't do anything wrong. The sister was saying something to these people about, I don't know, their car, something. I don't know the details, but she kept saying, I didn't do anything wrong, over and over. And her sister was like getting annoyed. It's like this big altercation happened, and where is there the self-reflection? Like, what just happened there? How might have I acted in a different way? Or did I need to say such and such? Because it ended up in something, rancorous and unpleasant. And, in certain circumstances, it could have risen to danger. This didn't go that place, but as we know, road rage and so forth. But the sister just kept holding to, I didn't do anything wrong. Like it was all them. And it was a difficult, like, how do you say to someone, well, what about reflecting on what just happened here and your actions, your speech? But it was really holding to this fixed view. They're to blame. It was all them. And I'm blameless and innocent. And, and in this person telling me this story, because I've been turning right speech, I thought about this holding to fixed views and the inability often to step back and often to calm down, maybe and to ask, what happened? Where was I? Was that necessary to make the comment? Could I have walked on by, What was going on? Why did I get involved? These are questions because it's never 100% the other person. It's in terms of difficult conversations and conflict, there's contributions that we make, and we may not be so aware of our contribution. So it's worthy of our attention. What was going on for me? What body language was going on? Maybe I didn't say anything, but I, expressed something. So I think that really came strongly to me about how we turn, especially when difficulties happen like this, where we contributed and how. And maybe we don't know. I don't know what happened there. And then we can ask. Sometimes we've been offensive. There's microaggressions, there's cultural insensitivity, all sorts of things. And we say, but I didn't do anything wrong. When actually, what happened there was our eye of practice did not reach to this situation. We weren't as aware of what was going on and who we were speaking with, maybe, or the situation. So it's not about right and wrong, it's about skillful means. So to be able to ask what happened there, I'm not sure what happened there, can you tell me, rather than, well, I didn't mean it. I didn't, this falling back to our intention is extremely important. If we intend to be cruel, intend to be, divisive and create fractions, if that's our intent, that's something to know. But often our intent isn't that, but we're not skilled enough, or as I said, our eye of practice doesn't reach. So to be able to ask, maybe the person you're with can't say, but maybe talking with somebody else, they can reflect on it with you. And in this way, I think we grow and develop this, really the art of living this life together with one another. So I wanted to tell this story that I heard in July. I was in Sweden leading a 7-day session. And after the session, I went to a wonderful museum in Stockholm, a modern museum. And they had a show, an installation by Laurie Anderson, the artist and singer and, visual artist. And she, it was a full installation with video and immersive kinds of experiences. And one room where it was a painted black walls with white writing all over the ceiling, all over the walls. And then there was these home movies. So I watched this part of the installation and heard her tell this story that struck me so strongly. And I wanted to, I've asked myself now, why did this hit me so strongly, this story? And in terms of speech, and I think I have an insight or a sense of how come, but I'll tell you the story. So Laurie Anderson is from the Midwest. I think she grew up in Chicago, and I grew up in St. Paul. So the winters are cold, and the lakes freeze, and the river freezes, and people skate. And anyway, she used to go to the movies, or and then take a shortcut across the lake, the frozen lake near her house. And she was with her twin 3-year-old brothers. She was 8 years old. She was with her twin 3-year-old brothers who were in a stroller. And she had been at the movies with them, I think. And it was later in the day, and the moon was rising, probably maybe a full moon. And she wanted to show them the moon. So she cut across the frozen lake with the stroller. And as she's going along the lake, on the lake, the ice broke and the stroller went in. And her first thought was, my mother's going to kill me, was, immediately. And then she threw off her coat and she dove down into the icy water and feeling around, and she couldn't feel. She came back up and she went down again, and she felt one of them and got him out, brought him up, put him on the ice, and then she went down again and couldn't find her second brother and the stroller and went down again. Finally, she found the stroller, unhooked him, got the second brother out, and carrying them, screaming under her arms, she ran home. And her mother looked at her and she told her the story of what happened. And her mother said, "What a good swimmer you are. What a good diver you are. I didn't know you could dive. What a good swimmer." That's the story. And she didn't mention, the mother did not mention, I mean, you can imagine somebody else, what they might have said and how they might have interacted. And somehow that story just went so deep in my heart, the life-changing words from her mother and how it could have changed her life into such a traumatic, horrible event. But instead, she was the hero. She was the heroine. She saved the day with her courage and her skill, and was praised and lauded and thanked. But how easily it could have been something totally different, that the burden of that, she would have carried her whole life, right? So thinking about this story and thinking about the mother, it's an amazing story to me, that the mother went immediately to words of kindness and praise and to the heart of the matter, which was, what a good diver, what courage, that's what happened, rather than, how stupid, how could you almost killed your brothers, and screaming. And no, she went to the heart of the matter and dropped off all the other, what could have been said, and went right heart to heart, intimate language with her daughter about, and out of love. So this kind of speech, can we, I find it so heartening, and so that human beings have that possibility to speak those words that are true and upright and complete. Nothing was left out. And the power of those words. I wanted to read you something by the Dharma teacher from the 1000s, 1091, Hongzhi. And he talks about people of the way. And, I don't know Laurie Anderson's mother in terms of people of the way, capital W, Dharma practitioner. Laurie Anderson is a Dharma practitioner, and I don't know about her mother, but anyway, people of the way journey through the world responding to conditions, carefree and without restraint. And I'm going to come back to this restraint in a minute. Like clouds finally raining, like moonlight following the current, like orchids growing in shade, like spring arising in everything. They act without mind. They respond with certainty. And when I read that, I felt like that was what happened there. There was certainty and responding, and nothing special, just like orchids growing in the shade. So in this first part where people of the way journey through the world responding to conditions, carefree and without restraint, all those precepts that I mentioned at the beginning of the talk or in the talk, they're called the collection of precepts of restraint. These are restraining from our habitual way of doing things. And, we don't like to be restrained often, right? I think there's a negative connotation to restrain. Like, I want to be free and carefree. Why are you restraining me? However, if we're going to develop skills and cultivate our life in such a way that we can meet and respond to conditions carefree and with certainty, we do need to work with our tendencies, to work with our habits. And that often means a disciple of Buddha does not. But there's a different and deeper meaning to the word restraint, which is what I want to add to this. So this is thinking about the kind of connotation of restraint as being bound in some way. In this marvelous sutra called the Avatamsaka Sutra, or the Flower Garland Sutra, it talks about when the Buddha woke up. Actually, the whole sutra is spoken from the Buddha under the Bodhi tree when the Buddha awakened to true nature. And when the Buddha awoke to the Buddha's true nature, in the Avatamsaka Sutra and other sutras also, it is said that he said, I, together with all sentient beings and the great earth, awaken. I, together with all sentient beings and the great earth, awaken. And this is the original enlightenment of Buddha's wisdom. This saying of the Buddha, this teaching that all of us and the great earth are completely awakened. The teacher, who's pretty contemporary, 1900s, who Suzuki Roshi studied with his teacher, named Oka Sotan, said, out of this, I, together with the great earth and all beings, attain the way. This is the precepts of restraint. The restraint is that I am not separate, and I, together with all beings and the great earth, everything, are together. These are the precepts of restraint. To me, that's a kind of remarkable way to think about our precepts and the precepts of restraint. It's not don't do this, and no, 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 and you shouldn't, and you should. It's because I, together with all beings and the great earth, am interconnected and together. Out of that teaching, out of that truth, I do not take what is not given. I do not lie. I do not misuse sexuality. I do not slander. Not because I'm being a good girl and, doing, keeping the precepts because that's what good little girls and boys and non-binary beings do. It's not about that. It's because I, together with all beings and the great earth, am awake. These are the Buddhas. That's why they're called Buddha's precepts. All those precepts that are couched in the language of a disciple of Buddha does not. These flow from this teaching of I, together with all beings and the great earth, are not separate and are one great suchness. And so I do not harbor ill will. This is a very, it's a kind of wider view of our Mahayana precepts. And I think we can learn the literal disciple of Buddha does not, but not forgetting the context of where these are flowing from. So I think I was able to tell all the stories I wanted to tell. And are we trying to end around 11 or so? Okay. Okay. So do we do the chant now? I'm forgetting. After the question and answers. Okay. So we do have a chance for about 10 minutes or so of discussion if anyone would like to bring something up or ask more. And Larry and our head of the meditation hall will bring around the mic and you can speak into the mic so our people online can hear too. And I get to choose. And Valerian asked me to choose, right? So I don't see any hands. Here's one. Diana. Yes.
Hi.
If you hold the mic horizontally, that seems to
Is this better?
Straight on, kind of.
This way?
I think so.
Okay. Thank you very much for your talk. This has been the most difficult time for me right now with my situation is that my husband had surgery and his personality and his abilities have changed completely. And he wasn't talking for a long time. And then he would maybe utter words. And now when he speaks, he tells me everything that I'm doing, cleaning up, whatever I'm doing is wrong. And I know that I don't like to be told that I'm wrong. But I also know that sometimes there's fact in that.
Sometimes
there's fact.
Yes.
There's truth in that. Or I try to figure out what it is that bothers him about it, what it is. It's like this impossible situation where there's a lot of not being reasonable, and it's just me and him. And I do lose my temper. And I get so frustrated that I break all those vows and those rules. And I just tell him, go away from me. Let me work. Let me be. And it's all, he stands 1 foot from me and his eyes are just staring at what I'm doing. And it's incredibly difficult.
Yes. Yes.
And I try to hold my tongue. I try not to say the wrong thing. I try to say the right thing. I try to not say anything and just do my work.
Yes.
And I just,
Thank
it's,
you,
it's,
Deanna. Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah. So you're describing a situation that is very difficult. And I think for caregivers all over, people who are caring for elderly, caring for partners, caring for the ill, especially in the home, it's very difficult. So, and probably at this point, you can't change another person because you never can change another person. So how are you going to practice with it? And what I've found and what I recommend, not really recommend, but what I've found to be helpful is self-care and self-compassion. And it may mean you need respite. You need to get away every day. You need, I don't know if you have, don't mean to micromanage, but having someone come in, I don't know if he can be left alone, but for you to take a walk, to go swimming, to rest, to be in nature will sometimes can be the key. It's like if you're taking very good care of yourself, okay, he's going to be grumpy and do this, and I can't stop it. I'll do what I can, but I'm going to take care of myself as well. So if that's not built in, it becomes intolerable. So hopefully you can find a way to do that and to also offer compassion to yourself regularly. Yeah. Good. Good. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes. And thank you for sharing that with everyone. Yes. Oh, I,
Um, okay, tell me if this is working. Okay. Um, a little closer. Okay. I'm so moved by your talk today. I think it encompasses so many different facets of communication and relationship to each other and relationship to the world. Um, some something that I just thought of when you were talking to Deanna was you never mentioned the act of listening being a key. And I thought maybe it would be a time for you to share that.
yes, yes, yes. It's a whole other world it's a whole other lecture, but yes, listening is key, and the healing power of listening, when we feel someone's really heard us completely with full attention, not looking at their screen and saying, yeah, yeah, but actually completely being there for us. We, it's life, it's transforming, it's totally transforming. And there are practices around listening that go along with right speech. Exactly. When to be silent. We have habits of speech that get in the way of our listening. For example, speaking over someone, finishing their sentence, interrupting, being distracted, looking around. I remember being with someone and they were like, they couldn't look at me, they were, and then of course screens. So these are all habits that stop us from completely being with who's right there in front of us. So there's also, in terms of active listening, body language that lets people know you are listening. We do it naturally, like a nod of the head or, facial things, or the posture that we take lets the person know it's important that I listen to what you're saying and what you have to say. So thank you for bringing that up. It's very, very important. And it's also a skill. It's not like, oh, well, some people are good listeners and I'm not. I don't think it's something that can be cultivated. Yeah. Thank you. Let's see. There was someone back there.
Thank you. I don't know why, I'm sorry. Thank you for your talk. It was very humbling and also inspiring. Can you hear me?
There I go.
Ooh,
It was very humbling and what?
Inspiring.
Inspiring. Wow.
But more humbling. But I wanted to ask about how, or if you can just speak for a second about how to apply right speech when you're talking to yourself.
Yes. That is like listening. That's another huge part of our life, is our internal mind, our internal, often, or for many people, critic. Harsh, talk about abusive and harsh speech, letting go of abusive and harsh speech. It's not just to others, it's how we speak to ourselves. And sometimes the way we speak to ourselves, we never would speak to anybody like that. It's really at a level of abuse, really. So all these things that I mentioned, I think, can be both internal and external, for sure. The internal, it could be helpful, can be helpful to talk with another person about how that is going, and how we get caught, and there's replacing that speech with other practices and other speech and other vows, perhaps internally. So there's different ways to work with it, but I'm really happy you brought that up. Both the listening and the internal speech are all part of this, and the importance of speech, upright speech. Yeah. I think, self-loathing and self-criticism, and the way that for some people, nothing, even the most wonderful praise, or someone talking to a person about how helpful they've been and how much they've changed their life by being the kind of person they are, internally the person can just, it doesn't, there's no place for it. It doesn't lodge. It's like only the criticism lodges. And that, I think, can be worked with. I don't think that's like end of story. That is always got to be that way. Yeah. Thank you. I've got almost 11:20, maybe room for, what do you have, Valerian?
Mine says 11:16.
Okay, maybe
if you want
one
to take
more.
one more.
We have someone over here in the third row.
Hi, thank you.
You're welcome.
You brought up the phrase "eye of practice."
What was the phrase?
Eye of practice, that the eye of practice didn't extend that far.
Eye of practice, yes.
And I didn't really understand what that meant. I wonder if you could expand on that a little.
Yeah, it's not my phrase. It comes from Dogen's Genjo Koan, I believe. And it says we only can see and hear what the eye of practice can reach. So, we develop it, we practice, and we see, oh, I notice things, or I'm aware of things in a different way. And that can continue to grow and grow. So, but we are limited. We can't see every single thing, which is why, in terms of being humble, we can't see the whole picture by virtue of our human life. We do what we can. So we have to remain humble rather than, oh, I understand. I've got this down. I know. We only see and hear, or see what our eye of practice, that's how far we can see. It's not limited because we're constantly practicing and widening, So just, with things like around speech, we say something and it didn't land right, or the person's feelings were hurt even though we didn't intend that. We have to, rather than their fault, they're not, or my fault, it's to acknowledge, I wasn't developed enough or saw enough to really meet them yet. And it's a kind of grounding rather than blaming ourselves for someone else. More work to be done. Okay. Thank you very much. So now we're going to dedicate the merit of our time together with the traditional chant.